We're going to talk about a diary of a Keystone poultry farmer. We wake up at 6 a.m. After waking up at 6 a.m., we'll go into the chicken coop. We'll check around for any sick birds. If there are any sick cases or any cases of emergency, we will handle it. After that, we will clean the feeders, we will clean the drinkers, and then we will feed them and give them whatever they need, the food they need in the morning. After that, during the day, we keep monitoring the birds. We keep going around the chicken coop to see if anything needs our attention. Apart from that, we also do our marketing during the day. We follow up with our customers. We respond to their queries on our social media pages. We discuss with our customers. If we are expecting any visitors, we deal with them during the day. And then when it comes to the afternoon, we repeat more the same thing. We clean the feeders, we clean the drinkers, we feed them, and while they're eating, we will collect any eggs that they will have laid, because birds usually lay from 6 a.m. to around 3 p.m. And then after that, we will turn on the lights for them, because birds need 16 hours of daylight, but for them, they will run 24/7. We make sure that the chicken coop is well secured, and then we wait for the next day again.
So when you're using the semi-free range system or using the free range system, ensure you're always at your farm on time. Or when you're not at the farm, somebody's at the farm to take care of your birds. Because when it rains and the birds are rained on, especially these improved Kienyeji breeds, some of them are very weak in terms of disease resistance, like the croilers. When they get rained on, they get wet, and this will make them susceptible to diseases. So ensure you always watch on weather. Very low temperature, rain, or extreme temperature. Ensure you put all these weather conditions under track.
Now, in this section, we're going to talk about breeding and choosing a parent stock. If you're keeping birds for laying eggs and also for meat purposes, let's specifically talk about laying eggs. You need to look at the cock to hen ratio. Most people will look at the cock to hen, will keep in their farms the cock to hen ratio of about 1 cock to 7 hens. At Keystone, we use 1 cock to 5 hens. This will ensure that the eggs we receive from our farm are fertile. Another factor we look at is the age of the birds. There are some birds that there are some birds that are too old to lay. When you're choosing your parent stock, make sure that you choose birds that are not too old to lay or are not too young to lay for you in your farm. You also need to look at good layers. You need to know how to decide how a bird, which is a good layer in your stock. So when you're choosing your parent stock, make sure you choose the good layers. Reason, because the hens which are not good layers will consume as much food as the good layers, and this will be somehow wastage to you in the farm. What you do, you need to set aside the layers which are not good. Try to boost their productivity, give them energy, give them food, let them increase their weight until they get to a point where they can lay well, and then put them back in your flock where you have the parent stock. Another thing you need to do is look at the disease history. Look at the disease history of your parents. When you're buying your flock, when you're buying your parent stock, if it is from another farm, make sure you know the history of the farm, if they have vaccinated the birds, if the birds had diseases before that time, because some diseases some poultry diseases are recurring diseases. So if there were diseases and they were not vaccinated against that disease and that disease attacked them, this disease will come back and recur after you have bought these hens. Another thing we are going to talk about is removing birds with stunted growth and deformities. If you notice a bird is growing too slowly, and if you notice a bird has some form of deformities, take the bird out of your parent stock, put it aside, because you do not want this recurring in your parent stock. You do not want the deformities to keep recurring in your parent stock. Another thing we're going to talk about is the purity of the breed. Make sure the best performing birds are the pure breed of birds, the F1. Most people will look for the F1 breed when they're buying the birds. So the best layers, the best one for you to keep in your farm as your parent stock, make sure that the purest of the breed, and this is the F1 breed. Another thing you will look at is the mixing of breeds. We discourage farmers against mixing breeds, taking, let's say you rear improved Kienyeji, you mix curry, you mix broilers, and you mix rainbow roosters. This is not good for you. This is not good for your customer. When your customer visits you, he might want to take a specific breed, but if you have mixed the breeds, you will not be able to tell which eggs are specifically for which girl. So when you're keeping birds in your farm, make sure you choose one breed, and if you are keeping several different breeds, make sure you keep them separately, you collect their eggs separately, you put their chicks separately, so that you can be able to differentiate not only for yourself but also for the customers when they come to the farm.
So we'll talk about the things that affect egg production in your flock. First of all, we'll have a look at the type of breed, or the type of bird, or the breed that you are keeping. First of all, in Kienyeji farming, we have 4 different breeds. That is the broilers, we have the curry, we have the rainbow roosters, and we have the Kenbrew. For rainbow roosters and Kenbrew, the productivity of your birds should lie between 20 to 25 eggs a month. While for curry, it should be between 15 and 20 per month. For the broilers, they'll give you an average of around 20 eggs every month. So depending on the breed you're keeping, the egg production will differ. There's another factor that affects the productivity of your birds in terms of egg production. Depending on the maturity rate of the breed you're keeping, the production will go up for the first 6 months of laying and drop gradually within the first and a half years of laying. Number 3, we are also going to look at the quality of feeds you're using, or the diet you put your birds in. If you're using low quality feeds, it means your birds are not getting enough nutrients they need in order to be laying. Laying birds need a good percentage of at least 18% of proteins for them to lay properly. They also need enough calcium and other minerals and nutrients that are important for egg formation. Stress. If your birds are under stress, it means production will not go well, because stressed birds do not lay properly. Stress does not work well with the egg formation process. Parasite infestation. Whether external parasites or internal parasites, it will affect the productivity of your birds. Your birds will get uneasy, it will cause also stress. The food they're eating will be taken by the parasites, so digestion, absorption of the minerals that they need and the nutrients they need for the egg formation will not take place properly. So egg formation will not take place as it should. Continuous visitors in your chicken coop. This will cause stress for your birds. Hence the productivity of eggs will shoot or go down, rapidly. Not enough daylight. That will affect the productivity of your birds. Laying birds need at least 16 hours of daylight. So if you have around 11 hours of daylight, that is the natural sunlight, you need to supplement it with the artificial light for at least 6 to 7 hours at night, so the egg production goes well during the night too. Broody hens. Normally, broody hens will take a long time before they start laying, and that is why the pure Kienyeji birds take long before they start laying eggs, because they need time to sit on the eggs, to raise the chicks, to brood the chicks before they start another time of egg production. Availability of water. More than 60% of the eggs component is made of water. So if you're not giving your birds enough water, it means they will suffer from dehydration, meaning they'll not be giving out good eggs, or maybe the production of the eggs will go down. Spacing. For laying birds, you need about 2 or 2.5 square feet per bird. So if you don't consider that, they will not get enough space for mating. Hence they will not lay properly, and they will also be stressed due to overcrowding. Diseases and sickness. A sick bird will not give you good quality eggs, or it will not lay properly. Temperature. Extreme temperatures will affect the quality of egg production. If the temperature is too high, it will cause dehydration, and it means the water intake will be so low for the birds, and the feed intake will be low too. Hence, they will not get enough nutrients and enough water they need to form the eggs. When it's too cold, the egg production goes down because laying birds do well in hot areas. The high temperatures or moderate temperatures of about 11 to 26 degrees Celsius will boost the productivity of the eggs. Molting. Molting, hence, this is an example of a good layer. Normally, good layers will undergo molting at some point. Molting is this stage whereby the feathers of the bird come out and they start growing afresh. Normally, they take about 3 weeks to undergo this stage before they start laying afresh. If you observe this in your chicken coop, it means maybe this bird is not laying properly due to this stage. Normally, good layers, some of them will lay even while undergoing molting, even though they will lay a small number of eggs, or few eggs within that period of time. So if your birds are undergoing this stage, they will not lay as good as they do when they're not undergoing molting. So if you observe this in your chicken coop, also know that these are among the best layers in your flock. At some point they undergo molting to refresh their reproductive system and start laying afresh. So when you talk about the poor layers and the good layers, what I mean is this. In your flock, you may find some birds not laying properly. Maybe the production is not as good as you expect it to be, or maybe the production is fluctuating. Sometimes you get 10 less eggs, 5 less eggs, or maybe they don't have a stable production. In that case, you need to know which birds are not performing in that flock. You need to know which birds are not laying and which ones are laying. I'm going to show you how to identify the poor layers, the non-performing layers, and the good layers. First of all, I have 2 birds here with me. You can see the difference between the two. One looks very active and this one looks very, very dull. So, good layers are always very active. They have very sharp and alert eyes. The poor layers, they look very dull and they do not react to changes in environment, or maybe they don't get stressed easily. They don't get engaged in activities like scratching, maybe fighting with other birds and all that. For the good layers, you can also look at the combs and the wattles. This one is a very good layer. It has very large and waxy combs and wattles. For the poor layer, you can see the comb is very small and the wattles are not as waxy as for the good layer. Lastly, we can also look at the vent for the good layer. If you look at the vent for this bird, let me just show it to you clearly. It's very moist, it's large and it's moist. When you try inserting 2 or 3 fingers inside the vent of a good layer, it will get in comfortably. It will get in comfortably without any stress. When you try that with a poor layer, you'll see the vent is not as large as that of a good layer. If you try inserting your fingers, they will not fit comfortably. You'll injure the bird. It will cause injury to the vent of the bird. As you can also see, it's not as moist as the one for the good layer. It's almost dry. So that is how we look at good layers and non-performing layers in your flock. You look at the combs and the wattles, you look at the vent, you look at the sharpness of the eye, and you look at the behavior. Normally, poor layers are generally lazy. They don't get in any activities like scratching. Most of the time they feed and just sleep, or they just like getting lazy. So that is how we know the difference. Now we also need to talk about vices. What are vices? Vices are the bad behaviors that you'll always notice in your chicken coop. Maybe pecking, cannibalism, and egg eating. So we'll have to look at the three and look at each one of them and the causes and how to handle them. First of all, we have egg eating. What causes egg eating? Maybe your laying boxes are exposed such that the hens easily see the eggs, so they get to start pecking them. There is too much light in the chicken coop such that the eggs get so much exposed. The hens will go eating them. Maybe you're not hanging greens for them. You're not keeping them busy. The birds are always lazy. You're not giving them enough feeds. Maybe they lack calcium. They will go look for that calcium in the eggshells. So how do we handle egg eating? You should try as much as possible to make your laying boxes as dark as possible. That is just how we've done it. As you can see, our laying boxes are black and a large part of the laying boxes are covered. That is to reduce the exposure of the eggs so the birds don't get to see it easily. Another thing you can do to handle egg eating, you can reduce or minimize the amount of light in your poultry coop. Don't make it so bright so that the light gets into the laying boxes and the birds see the eggs and start eating. Another thing you can also do, always add calcium, enough calcium to your feed, so your birds don't get calcium deficiency. If they don't get enough calcium, they'll only get it in the eggshells. So they'll start eating the eggshells. Also, another thing you can do, you can always hang greens for your birds. As you can see, we have hung aloe vera for our birds. We also give them greens, we give them fruits, so they get enough vitamins. They'll not go for what they lack in the feeds. They'll not go for them in the eggs. Cannibalism and pecking. What is cannibalism or pecking? That is the activity of, you see the birds pecking the vents of another bird. Why do they do that? Maybe just like the egg eating, there is too much exposure, too much light, so that all they see is the red vent of the other bird, so they want to start pecking. And as you know, the birds are attracted to red things, so they only go for the behinds of the other birds. They'll start pecking the vents. How can you deal with that? Just like egg eating, ensure your room does not have too much light. Just use enough light, necessary light, and you'll handle that. Also, hang greens for your birds so that it keeps them busy, so they don't go looking for something to keep them busy. They want something raised to peck. So always hang greens for your bird. That is how you can handle the vices of egg eating and cannibalism or pecking.
Now, we are going to talk about stress. Just like human beings, even the birds are usually stressed sometimes, and there are several causes of stress. And there are several causes of stress to your birds. Now, one of the things that can cause your birds to be stressed is feed change. When you change the feeds for your birds, when you have laying birds and you change your feeds, abruptly to another type of feeds apart from the one you are using, you will notice they will stop laying. That will mean that your birds are very stressed. So in such a situation, when you want to change the feeds for your birds, you need to introduce the feeds slowly. Maintain whatever feeds you are giving them, but start introducing the other feeds slowly, so that you do not shock their system. And when you're changing feeds for your birds, make sure you add into their water liquid paraffin, which will help them in the digestion of the new feeds. Another cause of stress to your birds can be climate change. Sometimes you will realize that it has been hot the whole say in the evening it starts to rain seriously. Sudden change of temperature will cause a lot of stress to your birds, and you will notice that when the next day comes, your birds will not lay as well as they laid the previous day. This is another cause of stress to your birds. Another cause of stress another thing that can lead your birds to be stressed is the noise. A lot of noise. If your birds are used to such a peaceful environment, and then out of nowhere, let's say you bring a workman to build another coop for you, or there's just some sort of noise from outside or within the coop, this will lead also to stress to your birds. Sometimes you have visitors in your farm and you want to show them around, not only yourself, but you can have visitors to come to your farm. This is also another cause of stress to your birds. When they see new faces, your birds know you, they know you feed them, and anytime you bring a new face to your farm, your birds will be stressed. This is also another cause of stress. Another cause of stress is when you decide that you have now built a new coop and you want to change your birds from the old coop, and then you want to take them to a new chicken coop. The process of moving them to a new coop, and when they will be in that new chicken coop, this is also another cause of stress to them, because you have changed their environment. Just as a human being, when you change your location from your house, you go to another house, there will be some impact to you. So this is also another cause of stress to your birds. And then whenever you introduce a new bird to your flock, you will notice, the birds will notice. Never assume that your birds will not notice this. They will notice this, and this is also one of the factors that will lead to stressing your birds. Another factor that may lead to stress to your birds, this is when there is extreme temperatures. Maybe it's too hot or it's too cold. That is why I usually encourage our customers at Keystone that whenever you build a chicken coop, make sure it is somehow you are able to regulate the temperatures. When it is too hot, the birds will be stressed. This will cause stress to the birds. And when it is also too cold, your birds will be stressed. A solution for this is whenever you're building the ventilation in your home, you need to be able to at least put some cover so that you can control. When it is too hot, you can open. Just like in your house, when you're sitting in your living room, when it is too hot, you can open the windows, and when it is too cold, you can close the windows. And in a situation where one of these factors has happened and your birds have been stressed, you can always buy anti-stress for your birds from the nearest agrovet. We have several of them. You can just go to your nearest agrovet, tell them you need an anti-stress, and put them in their drinking water, and also add on glucose to their drinking water. This will give them energy.